Hello guys, my name is Kirill. I am from ProfsoUX Conference Program Committee, and today I'm talking with Scott Sullivan. Hi Scott.
Hey, how's it going?
It's great. It's nice to talking with you. How are you?
Everything's going really well. Yeah, I'm really excited to come out to St. Petersburg. I've never been to Russia, and yeah, I'm super excited.
Okay. Julia said me that you are like travel. So what do you expect you from your trip?
I'm going to I'm going to St. Petersburg first, then I'm heading down to Moscow, and then over to Kiev. Yeah, I'm just really excited about the whole thing. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Really excited to see the sights and everything, and get to know. I really just want to make a bunch of friends in Russia. So.
Okay, it's great. So your topic is machine learning for designers. How do you find your topic and what people should expect from you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that machine learning is something that's obviously somewhat new, but I think it's really important. I don't think that machine learning is necessarily going to be on every single project that you're going to end up be doing. I think it's right now it's only useful in not very many ways, basically, because it's so expensive. That if you can find a way to not use machine learning, you should do that. But there are a lot of things that you can only do with machine learning, and luckily we have machine learning for that, and it is getting cheaper. So most of what I've been concentrating on for this work is teaching machine learning stuff, teaching designers how to work on projects that involve machine learning. Because I think that if of all the people who would be making the best use of this technology, it would be UX and service designers.
Okay, is UX designers really need to know the exact things about the machine learning, some details, or they just should contact with right persons, such natural language engineers?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that designers need to learn exactly how to do machine learning work. I mean, it's just that's a lot to figure out, and our time can be better spent. I think that what we need to know is when it's appropriate to use machine learning to solve certain problems, and then how to design for that type of system, for that type of engineering. What's possible with machine learning that's not possible by conventional engineering, and then how what's the design process look like for machine learning based projects. So how do you do sketches with machine learning and data, and then how do you do ideation, and how do you validate ideas? So it's basically the same general process. You're doing the same like kind of big chunks for projects that involve machine learning. It's just a little different, and there are a few considerations here and there that you have to think about when you're doing machine learning versus if you're just doing kind of regular database based applications.
Okay. Uh, let's talk about your background. Could you just say something about your experience, work experience, and maybe what projects you like to do?
Yeah, so I spent so right now I am the director of user experience for a global firm called LPK. So we've got our main office here in the U.S. In Cincinnati, Ohio. Then we have office in London and Geneva and Singapore and Guangzhou, China.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so that's fun. I've been here for about a year now. Before that, I was at Adaptive Path out of San Francisco. So I moved here from California, And there, I was working there. Had a lot of fun, big projects with a lot of companies that you might have heard of. But then we got bought by Capital One Bank. So I spent about 3 years in banking, and that's where I learned a lot of this kind of stuff. So over those 3 years and working with Adaptive Path was kind of when a lot of what I'm working on right now really kind of got worked out, especially on the machine learning side.
Okay, I'd like to know why do you prefer working in agencies? So you have experience working in a bank, so it's like more a product way. So, but in agencies, it's like other way. What do you prefer this way of working?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, both of them are great. I loved working in the bank because you get to work on something for a longer time. They're kind of like the projects work in different ways. Banks are generally better funded than a lot of other clients, so you have a little bit more space to explore certain things. But then agency is fun because you get to work on more of a variety of things. I can like if I don't like a project that I'm working on, it'll end soon, and I'll be working on something completely different. Um, so that's good, and I can make friends and go work in Russia if I want to, or something like that. I'm not tied down to one company, so that's good. So there's a lot of good things in both sides.
Okay, it's great. So you have known as a writer. So you wrote a book about the wearables, and it was published by O'Reilly. Uh,
Mhm.
yes, obviously, I would like to know about your book and how do you get to it. But I would like to ask, how do you find the animal for the cover?
Yeah. So okay. So I didn't know this until I became an author with O'Reilly, but they usually don't let you pick the animal. So
That's
they
sad.
yeah, I know. I was bummed out, and then but they were like, well, there's the design team that work at O'Reilly. They usually pick the animal, but they let the author suggest an animal, and I suggested the capybara, which is my animal on my book. So and I got it, and they went with it. So that's good. And they also have a list that they send you of all the animals that have ever been on an O'Reilly book, and you can't pick one of those animals because each book has to have a different animal. So I got the capybara. Actually, I can show everybody. This is my animal here.
Yeah, it's
The lovely rodent here, the capybara. And yeah, and I picked that. I used to, so when I was working out of a firm based in Boston on the East Coast of the United States, I worked on a huge project with one of my best friends called Project Capybara. That was like the code name, and it was this really fun kind of sensor network project. And so I've always had a soft spot for that animal, so I kind of named it. I asked for that animal basically because of that project.
okay. So why you wrote book about the wearables? So why it's so
Yeah,
touching you?
yeah. So it kind of happened by accident, I guess. So I started maybe 7 or 8 years ago. I started writing for Fast Company. Um, And are you familiar? Is Fast Company a thing in Russia? Do you guys? Okay.
Yeah.
So there's Fast Company magazine and Fast Company design. So I started writing for Fast Company. Um, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, 7 years ago, and all of a sudden I just kind of started writing about wearables. I didn't really mean to, but it happened, and then I started writing more about wearables, and then um, right before the Apple Watch came out in 2014 or 2015, I was asked by Apple to be the design mentor for their first ever Apple hackathon.
Mhm.
So the Watch Kit hackathon. So it was before launch of the Apple Watch, and then and Apple needed third-party applications to be developed for launch, so they could launch, and there was like apps to run on the thing. So I was a design mentor for that, and I kind of this was back when I lived out in Silicon Valley. So I went down to Apple, and we got to see the watch before it came out, and they kind of gave us an overview of what all it could do. And I was just like, and I kind of had to think, I had to kind of like come up with a philosophy on how you should design for the Apple Watch really quickly. And it kind of occurred to me, I was like, oh my gosh, I hate this device. I think this is going to be like the worst thing that's ever happened, and it's just gonna annoy the crap out of people. So I hated the Apple Watch. I don't wear any smart devices.
It's designer's nightmare.
Yeah. So I basically So I spent that hackathon trying to convince people not to make notifications, but that was pretty much the only thing the Apple Watch could do at that time. And then I started writing really angry articles for Fast Company about the Apple Watch. And then O'Reilly asked me to write a book about it. I don't know how it happened. It was weird.
I don't have a chance to read your book, but I just go through the talk, and I found some chapter about the mental devices. It's cognitive.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So actually, I'm very big fan of BCI, and so what is your opinion about the brain-computer interfaces? And very trick question: how to people? So the people should wear these devices to get the data. It's really hard to get this weird stuff on them.
Yeah. I mean, cognitive wearables are fun and scary. I'm very skeptical of pretty much any technology, but I think we have to be very careful with cognitive wearables. But they're also really interesting. They're still they're relatively new. I just read an article about some new one coming out of MIT that like goes like on your chin and then around the back that is a lot more accurate. But the only ones that I've played with are pretty low fidelity, and you can't really do all that much with them. But I don't know. I think they're pretty cool. Do you work on any of them?
No, I'm just get some research and trying to use some newer devices for UX research. So it's interesting, but it's not so much data from it. So it might be like a toy, but for the other hand, it's okay for some experiments, but not for daily use.
No. I did one project where I had one. It was like the Muse headband. And I think it's in my book. Where I programmed like an Apple, like an iPhone, to read the readings from my headband in real time, and then I taught my colleagues how to read the readouts, and I called it my cognitive accountability machine or something like that. So if I was in a meeting and I wasn't paying attention, it would like notify everyone around me that I wasn't paying attention, and they would like see it. It was really funny. But so you can do like some things like that. Like I think like at least, I mean, this was a few years ago, but you could do things where like it could see like it could measure really well if you were like attention and things like that. But it couldn't be like, oh, I'm sad or anything like that. It could just kind of tell if you're excited, but or bored. But that's what it was really good at saying in terms of like the brainwaves that it could read. But I'm sure there's like better ones now that are much more detailed.
Yeah. So it would be your first visit in Russia. So what do you expect from your visit?
I don't have a ton of expectations. You know, the biggest thing that I want to do is just kind of meet Russian people. I went to school in Switzerland, and there was like one Russian person in my program, and she was great. She was super fun. So, so I've only have good experiences with Russians. So I'm excited to just kind of hang out a little bit more. I've got a couple visits planned. I'm going to go hang out at the VK headquarters in St. Petersburg. And then I'm hanging out at the Mail.ru headquarters in Russia. So I'm getting to see kind of what the technology scene is like there. And yeah, and so far, as far as I can tell, everybody's really nice. And you guys are up to some really cool stuff.
So, our interview coming to the end. Thank you very much for your time. I'm really happy to talk with you, and really would like to meet you in reality. So, would you say some end words to our audience?
Yeah. Thanks for watching the interview, and I'm really looking forward to coming hanging out with you guys in St. Petersburg at the conference.
Thank you very much, Scott. Bye.
All right, bye.